How do we design?
Design is like falling in love.
Design is one where you're going with the flow.
Without the organization, design also will not exist, right?
How important is passion in design?
Software, you need to do the interaction design part of it. If it's a hardware, you need the industrial design.
Do you still hold on to human-centric design or do you let go?
Design, if you look at it, that it's always in a loop.
So, three things. Number one, Pradeep is our guest. He is UX designer. He was working with Google Cloud and he was leading India for it. Right now, he's pursuing his PhD from IIT Bombay. We'll be talking a little bit about that in the conversation today. Second thing, thank you all for watching these videos because I see our viewing hours increase. That means you guys like something or you guys are having some takeaways. And third, to be continued.
Okay, so I am really interested in your journey as we have been talking till now. I'll ask you to tell your own journey for yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel kind of really inspired because somebody from Google now, a name itself is huge. And I'm sure it comes with a lot of responsibility for you too, like as you were explaining. So, number one, tell us how you got here, who you are, the whole journey of how till cloud happened.
Okay. Sure. We'll start?
Yeah, it started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the moment.
No, there's no. It
Alright.
started. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for giving me this chance to talk to you and use this platform.
It's pleasure for me, but yeah.
So yeah, if you ask about me, I come from a very small village in Kerala, place called Changanashiri. It's between the backwaters and the hilly areas. Very beautiful. Growing up, I never knew there was something called as design. Right? So I was good with art. I used to sketch and paint and sculpt and things like that. So people said, okay, maybe you should become an architect. That was the only thing which
Oh, wow.
people knew. Right? So fortunately for me, there was a cousin of mine who did his MBA from XLRA and he had seen some part of the world actually. So he said, hey, there is something called as design. So why don't you look at it? So that's when I came to know about the field of design itself. So then I did my mechanical engineering.
Yeah, but you did engineering after.
True, but there were very less opportunities to
Okay.
get into design at
Fair.
at a graduation level at that point in time.
Huh.
Most of it was all post-graduation programs. And I did my engineering and then immediately went to IDC, IIT Bombay to do my master's in product design. And that was really the big
Shift.
paradigm shift which happens in the life of anybody. So for me, though I was an art, I used to sketch and paint and things like that, but still things were very finite. You always have kind of a geometric interpretation of things. So this is where I still remember, very clearly remember, we had some of our assignments put up, and then there was one Professor Bhandari. He had a very big influence on my journey as a designer. She asked me, Pradeep, have you fallen in love? Sir, it's like a little odd question. Look, design is like falling in love. You need to let go, let loose, and then don't look at things from a very finite perspective. Take it from that level of, it's an emotional kind. And so that really opened me. And I believe that I have come out as a much better designer, thanks to him and many of the other professors. So I think that philosophy kind of, looking at things more from a fluidic, more emotional way of thinking. But at the same time, having that background in engineering helps me to get into the realization of things. So dreams don't just remain dreams, but you also need to fulfill them or bring them in a way which benefits the user and the society.
I feel like the way you said, like the professor anecdote, Similar thing happened to me. I was doing my master's and one of my tutors came. We were designing something and he was like, Madhavi, are you cheating? And I was like, what? Why would you say I'm cheating? I said, you're definitely cheating with this design because it's not coming out. You don't want to follow the process. Like as you said, fall in love or like give yourself into it, but want the end product. And that opened my eyes. And he just like kept saying like, don't cheat with yourself and your design. And I think we need these kind of professors around us who kind of
Absolutely, yeah.
it's like a slap on your face and like wake up call and saying, okay, now it is designed as a process where you just give in and let go. Rarely do people do that, but it is
Yeah.
quite important.
And then, IDC also taught me a lot in terms of experimentation. Never be satisfied with one great output, which you think you might be great, comes so soon. And work at it, refine it, iterate it. And that's something which I also used to tell to the people whom I used to manage, right? Don't be satisfied with what you have done. This is good, but then there are much better things to explore and work at it, experiment. And I've got your back, right? Especially in large organizations, people are also sometimes scared to experiment, right? Because, hey, I have my list of things to do, and he's asking me to jump into things which might be a little uncomfortable.
Right.
But then, yeah, we all need to do that.
Saying of things uncomfortable, design is one where you're going with the flow, and then decision making is the other. And especially for your leadership roles and stuff, like that's how it happened. Where do you say, okay, we stop and start making decisions and moving forward?
So this is a little, tricky question in the sense of it also depends on the situation, right? A lot of times you have to balance between the organizational needs, what the business is looking for, vis-a-vis what your team's charter is, what people's aspirations are, and you also look at those bright young eyes looking at you saying, hey, can we do this? But the answer might be no at this point in time. Why? Because we have a pressure to release this product or do something, or we have these constraints at this point in time. So it's a very hard task as a leader to, of course, you negotiate, you bargain, and then you have to arrive at trade-offs.
Right.
Because trade-offs are part of life. You cannot live without it. So this is where again, it's not about just communicating the decision. It's also telling the people the why part of it. Okay? So this is when I still feel that designers have to understand how organizations work, how organizations behave, and what drives these organizations from a business standpoint.
Okay, now if we zoom out, now we were in the institute, now we're talking about the product. You took a decision in between these starry eyes to let this whole system of people. Are we leaving the human-centric design out of the picture here? Because there's so many parameters to look at.
Well, I feel that, or I believe that designers won't exist if you keep the human out of the loop. So what makes us still live, breathe, and function as designers is because we think from the user's perspective. So that cannot be negotiated. But having said that, right, there are pressures that the organization faces. Because without the organization, design also will not exist, right? So that is where we have to understand that part. Of course, it may not be to our liking. It's not like we completely agree with all of them, but understanding is important. As to why the timing of certain things, or why now, why not later, or why later, why not now. Right? So these things it's very important for you to understand.
Which place do you actually push for design more? Like say if you were to make a decision, an organization is telling you something, but you're like, no, I will have to take a call saying the design has to be priority and I'll push that more than whatever you're saying at this point. Because you have, being Google, it's way bigger challenge for you to do this. It's a huge organization.
Yeah, it's not just Google, like even the other organizations. We have always tried to put in some process in place and some governance functions to make sure what is the definition of good. How can as a designer, how do you define what is good to be given to the engineering team for further develop, right? So we always have to draw that line.
Please tell me what is good.
Well, it's again depends on the product, the feature, etc. But there are certain things which are absolutely non-negotiable. For example, have you done the research for it, and what level of user insights have you gathered? How have you translated that in terms of concepts, and are they meeting the many different parameters, like have you done a heuristic evaluation, blah blah blah. There are a lot of those kind of more technical parameters, and we have to answer those.
Right.
And if you've not done that, sorry, this is not fit to go. But at the same time, haven't they been released? Yes. But then this is where we also have to disagree and commit, right? Sometimes.
Right.
So, okay, we've not done this, we've not done the due diligence, we are not happy. Yeah, we are doing it for these reasons.
Right, right. Now you've designed the product. I was talking to you about like how design is power. What is your thought on it? Like how powerful anything which you are surrounded with can be in your life?
See, design is actually a lot more powerful than what we think today it is. Starting from, if you ask me, it affects the entire life cycle of not just a product, right? It's also around the services. It's right from branding to communication to R&D to product development to customer service, support, maintenance, recall. It affects the entire chain of activities. But are we doing it there in the right measure? Probably not. We're still more focused on product development from a R&D perspective to delivering it. But how often are we even looking at something like a maintenance cycle or a upgradation, end of life kind of scenarios?
I'll pull you back and ask, sure, like the design cycle and everything, but I, as a user, now you've given me something design. What power does this hold on me? Like my mindset. What do you think about that power? I'm talking about fully user perspective. How much power do you as a designer hold? How much power does an architect hold? How much power does a food designer hold? For me as a human to have this whole experience which is called life.
So
maybe philosophical, but
sure. Let's try to bring it down with an example. So there's a very famous case study called as the $300 million button. Okay? So this is a successful project done by Jacob Nielsen, one of the famous UX proponents and the equivalent of Don Norman in UX field. So he was working for a client. They evaluated the checkout flow. It was an e-commerce site, and then for the checkout flow, apparently there was one area wherein there were a lot of dropouts happening. Why? Because the button said, you've added your things into the cart, you are ready to check out. It says, please log in or register now. So that was kind of a big roadblock for people, and there was a huge set of drop-offs happening. So what this gentleman did very smartly, he said, you have an option to continue and register later, or you just do it as a guest. End result, the engagement increased by more than 45%, and in a year the company earned more than $300 million in terms of revenue with just that button.
right.
And you talk about the power of
Yeah.
design, right?
Yeah, I think we've been on the receiving end of this, like whenever we are like shopping and doing this. The login itself, like this, it's very tedious. That makes so much sense, like when you say it. Yeah. I feel like number one is you're designing. We look at like Google as this whole big institute which has already so much research, right? You can go, like as you said, you have the accessibility to talk to your peers who are equally intellectually sound. What do you think people who are in smaller organizations, say startup, or could be smaller businesses, lacking in terms of their research, or like where they should push more? Where you see the difference between, like, okay, I come from here, so maybe I know it, and these people are not able to pick that up.
Well, that's a great point, Madhavi, because as a mentor to many of the startups now, of course, under the Google for Startups umbrella as well, I've seen it. A lot of people uh, probably don't even know that there is something like design and research exists. For them, yeah, they might know it as more of surveys or ways to talk to people. Oh, I ran this survey, but I didn't get any good answer, or this is what came out. So no, you need to understand there is qualitative aspect, there's quantitative aspects. How do you really get to know people, use the techniques of user-centered design, user research to get to the depth of things. And from there, it's not just about having the research, right? Like you said, Google and other companies have tons of TVs of petabytes of data in terms of research. But what do you do with that? How do you interpret that into something which is meaningful, relevant? That also requires work. Right? That's where both researchers and designers have to work together to make sense out of it and make something more tangible out of it. So these are again two areas where many of the smaller organizations still struggle with. First is the awareness and the understanding that I need to do this. Second thing, how do I do it? Do I hire people? No, it becomes a question of whether you have the capacity to do it, or should we engage an agents?
Right.
So these are again different questions many of the startups have, and they also have asked me, hey, can you do this, or can I get this done quickly? There's no quick thing about it, right?
God, the quick part of design is so frustrating.
So it's like, yeah, can you do some UX? It's as if I've cooked everything, put some.
Yeah, they want
salt
Swiggy
and
for design. Like, just 10 minutes, can you deliver this design to me?
So I mean, fortunately, more and more people are becoming aware of it. Of course, they're still trying to squeeze things from a timeline perspective. And this is again where design also has to work more iteratively. So one good thing, I mean, people talk about AI is taking away a lot of these things. I'm happy because AI is also taking away a lot of those laborious things, right? It used to take more time in terms of creating wireframes and those flows. Those things can be automated now.
Right.
So you have more time to think. You look at it from a solving a customer problem than saying, okay, I need 60% of my time usually gets spent in terms of creating the wireframes and mock-ups, etc.
Yeah, so now systems can be optimized basically.
Yeah.
And the time is reducing, and also I think mistakes can be removed a lot more.
True, but still we always need to have the human in the loop. We can just let the machine go on its own way. But yeah, coming back to what you asked, right, with respect to smaller organizations, I think this is again where they have to leverage what AI can do in terms of simplifying some of those things which used to take more tasks. But please make sure that you're employing competent human beings to run these things.
Please say that 10 times. I think we should replay this. They think that humans are just like out of the equation altogether. I think jobs are changing. I think we are talking about it a lot, but this is how it should be framed, like the way you said, that you need competent human beings to then understand and find the bug and then move further.
Yeah.
Now, in these bigger organizations, innovation also might be difficult, right? Like, because you have so much hierarchy, so much, say, paperwork to be done for you to implement. How do you guys still push for innovation?
So innovation always tough. It may sound very glamorous, but it's a very hard thing to actually get it done in organizations. Especially if you look at many of these organizations, they're already running low in terms of capacity to do the work. People are actually running beyond their max capacity in many cases, at least in things which the teams which I have worked in. You rarely get the luxury to say, oh, I have X percentage, 2 headcount free for this or anything. It's hardly 0.1% or few weeks or months here and there you squeeze in. You look at the Excel sheet and say, oh, okay, I have some capacity here and there, right? So you have to manage things within that. So, and I don't think it's not just a problem with design. Nobody has the luxury or the bandwidth to do things probably the way people used to do earlier. So even in Google, we used to have those 20% projects. Right? You have 20% of your bandwidth available to do things on your own. But in reality, that's also getting affected because of pressures from. Not to say that nobody's saying no to things. So this is where again the question of how optimized are your personal processes. I always believe that you as a designer also need to have personal processes. It's not just saying, oh, I do research, I do this, which are the Uber user-centered design process. But even to get to the office every day and then start your day, you need to have a personal set of processes. And does innovation, thinking differently, thinking a little radically, stepping out, zooming out and then zooming in to solve a problem differently. Are these part of your personal processes, right? So that also becomes a big question.
Yeah.
So if a designer is able to do that, so then innovation can still happen. It may not be a big breakthrough innovation. It might be a simple step reduction, right? Yeah. Hey, I thought about this last night. I think if we do this way, we might be able to save a little bit. On the look of it, on the UI, it may not even seem like a big change, but it might actually bring down things. Even those, I call that those are real innovations.
Right. I think the way you're saying, like having that bandwidth, like giving yourself that time. So the moment you're organized, maybe like you get some time extra for you to like detox in a way, like let go of whatever you've done, and then you actually start thinking. Because at this point in time, I don't think a lot of people are able to even have thoughts of their own. The way we are surrounded with technology and the apps which are there around of us, there is no space for your own original thoughts. There are a lot of conversations which I've had wherein I'm asking the question and the person in front of me is just answering. It's an answer to what? I have no idea. Because it's like the chatbot, it's like AI, it's like give it some time, Even AI right now thinks. I'm joking there, but like, what I mean? It's like give it some time. It's okay to like take a breather generally in life, and every day if you have that much time, maybe you kind of let go of whatever you've gotten and you start thinking personally, and that's very important for designers to do. Like the idea which you told, the button would have not come up, or like the idea would have not come up if he did not give that original thought, because there was already a process set for them.
No, you're right, because this is where I feel that designers are too worried about AI, but then I think, hey, this is where your opportunity of having that thinking space more for you. Think about the problem space than the the hands-on work you needed to do. Right? But it's very important to have that thinking space.
Right.
And I personally, if you ask me, right, I also get into this kind of thing, and what helps me is to just take a walk. I just walk out of the building, or even if in office, just take a chakkar around the office space. And I've heard that Steve Jobs was a big proponent of this kind of walks.
Oh.
And even he used to take meetings, walking meetings.
Oh yeah, this I've heard.
And he also used to just take.
I think your house is also beautiful enough to just like sit and think. Very peaceful. Okay, in terms of innovation, we were talking about, like, say, small scale, your daily things. But in organization, when innovation has to happen, I feel like it's like a revolution of sorts, no? Because there is already everything set, how things work, and then you have to push forth something. Rather than like when you're talking in a startup, it is for innovation. So it's much easier to do the R&D, much easier to push anything there. How do you guys do it in these bigger organizations? How do you push forth for innovation there?
Well, I mean, it's still possible, Madhavi. And of course, it takes a lot of agency from the leadership to enable it. You can't just expect the junior level people, designers to stand up to people. You need leaders to defend the
Yeah,
day for
exactly.
that. So there are many examples of it. And one of it I can share is um, I was working in Bosch. So then there's this new business team from Brazil. So they came to our UX agency. Right? So we were a centralized team. We got teams in Germany, India, China, and the US. 4 studios to cater to the global Bosch, subsidiaries and the companies. So this team from Brazil say that, hey, we have developed a new software to manage cattle. Brazil is one of the largest exporters of beef. Right? They have huge ranches with tens of thousands of cattle, and this is I'm talking about from 10, 15 years ago. So they said, hey, but the farmers are not really getting familiar with the UI. So can you do some UX? The typical thing, do something to the UI. So when we stepped back and started asking questions and really looked at it, we understood that they're not really addressing the problem. It's not a visualization problem of people not understanding the UI. So we said that, hey, look, this would be our approach. Can we do a user research? Talk to the actual farmers, observe the conditions, and then can we reframe the problem. Fortunately, they agreed. Of course, it took some pressure to get them to agree to that. So our researchers flew to Brazil, went to the farmers and understood the. So what we found out was quite revolutionary. The thing that farmers are concerned about the revenue. They need to get money out of the cattle. How do they get money out of the cattle? By sending them for slaughter at the right time. Because the quality of meat determines the rate that you get. The better the quality of meat, the more money you get. So how do you know the quality of meat? It's on the timing. How do you know the timing? It's usually on the body weight of the animal. Then how do you weigh a cow? Right? So at that point in time, they did not have a very accurate way of weighing it. All they had was kind of a platform on which cows were kind of trampling on, and then they had a gate kind of a contraption to hold the cow still, because you need the animal to be still for certain seconds to stable to get the accurate read. And that way of terrorizing the animal to hold it in place, clamp it down with a mechanical contraption, that was causing stress in the animal. And stress affects the quality of meat.
Oh, wow.
How did we understand? There was an animal psychologist also consulting for this. Then we were looking at, hey, how can we really solve this problem? We need to weigh a cow. The whole thing is now weighing on the weight of the cow. And of course, there are RFID tags which are already tagged onto the ears of the cows and etc. So then there was a slew of things. This was the early stages of IoT, right? And sensors. Bosch was big into sensors. So there were like a lot of solutions which were emerging out of it in terms of having these platforms distributed and along the way, near the water troughs or wherever they go for feeding, and which is non-intimidating, right? It's like a natural way for them to walk. And then because of these RFID tags, you can exactly pinpoint which cow at what point in time, and you get tons of data, right? At different times of the day, the same animal. And it gives you much accurate picture when you look at it from a interface perspective. So that was like completely reframing things. And the good thing, the project became a big success, and then they said, hey, we can extrapolate it, or we can use a similar methods in other ways of farming. So that sensor based thing became a big hit. So it was like a,
And they
you know,
start
very-
killing the cows. No, but that's such an interesting story to. I think people should be hopefully listening to this, because how eliminating the fear resulted in something which is opposite. Like we are talking about technology to like fear, which had no connection, but for your bulb to go on or saying this also could be a factor, or some having somebody who can see animals psychology, that thought also come in for a UX designer. I don't even know where did you guys get the idea from, or did you guys, what kind of research did you do for that, for you to get that person on board?
Well, that person was, we also worked with a lot with the local ecosystem. There was a university, set of students doing a lot of those prototyping stuff with the hardware and sensors, etc. And then uh, the client or the team itself was very forward thinking, and that again helped. Right? I mean, they were also saying once they started getting a sense of what we are doing and they started thinking differently, they said, okay, let's jump in, let's do this, let's move to more. Right?
I feel like the first wheel has to turn and then everything else kind of follows.
Exactly. So this is where again I feel that we as designers also owe a lot in terms of explaining our processes. What are we trying to do here? And by doing this, what do we achieve? We, I think, are not still effective in terms of telling about the outcomes.
But aren't we like seen as like storytellers? Designers are like crazy storytellers. But we are still not able to communicate the main problem and the innovation
I
out of
think
it.
we think we are storytellers, but the stories are not connecting. Probably we need to have somebody else to evaluate and say, hey, you need to do better things.
Right. You were talking about critically evaluating your process of designing. What does that mean?
See, typically we talk about user-centered design. We start with research. Oh, we need to understand users. We need to have a fresh research done. We need to have these samples. We need to do this. Right. Second thing is design. Right. When we do, if it is a software, you do the interaction design part of it. If it's a hardware, you do the industrial design part of it, prototyping, and then handing it over to engineering for the subsequent work. Right. Sometimes we get so fixated on these steps, right? Or I have to follow the process. You lose the spirit of the process. Or how effectively can you get what you intend from each of the steps? For example, right? Is it really necessary to do a fresh research every time? Probably not. But the team or the researchers and designers feel, hey, we might miss out on certain things. Yeah, you might miss out. But can we catch it at later point in time? So which means we might even start with a concept first approach and then employ. Not to say that we are not doing this. Okay, we know certain things, right? And with that assumption, is it okay to do kind of an MVP or a concept, and then do the rigorous testing? And that has to it has to be done differently from a testing you might do for a more matured product or feature. So if you look at a traditional process, right, you do the research, you understand, you have formulated some hypothesis, you try to develop concepts, you validate it. But in this case, those hypotheses are not there. Right? You might have to do it a little differently, which means you are undoing some of the processes or the steps that which you're familiar with earlier. So this is what I mean to say, that you might have to do things differently.
Maybe like we are researching about the problem also, like problem statement itself a lot more. And then what is the next step? Because usually what we do is one problem statement is set, the question is already set, and we don't go back to it.
Correct.
We don't question it.
So design, if you look at it, that it's always in a loop.
Yeah.
We usually forget the part that it goes
Started
back.
from.
Yeah. So we don't want to do it, or it becomes uncomfortable, or it's sometimes it becomes a question of, hey, is it it's about me. Is it about my capability to not deliver or thing, rather than looking at it saying, look, yeah, this is where we need to relook at it or rethink on things.
Now, in this, there can be human error also, right? Because
Yes.
emotions are involved.
Yes.
and ego and everything else, which
Absolutely.
we don't. How do we put a check to human problems then?
So that is where you make sure that your testing is done by a competent team, and you have a protocol to run these tests. This is not just randomly, okay, I did this and then I'm going to ask people saying that, hey, do you like it or not? Right? You need to go against some of those principles with which you do even the testing part of it, which means you isolate the me part of it, or the designer part of it, and look at it more things from more objectively.
Right. We were talking about innovation, we were talking about startups, and then we went into this whole thing. For innovation, I think these bigger companies also get into these startup ecosystems because you can also like kind of get a lot of through incubation. You can get a lot of startups to push that kind of innovation further, right? How many of this actually work out for your institute usually? Or do you guys like abandon the idea and then come up with something new, totally different altogether for your specific company feature or something?
So, I mean, going by global research statistics, it always is in the single digits in terms of how many of these startups go to the next level or attain a fair stage of maturity, etc. Right? And I've also seen it, from my practical experience in terms of even if you mentor, say, 20 startups, right? There might be hardly 3 or 4 who have very solid ideas or thought through problems, and right, that level of confidence to even say that, hey, they are fit to go to the next level. Right? Many of them have a lot of passion, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of understanding of the problem areas, but framing the problem statement, looking at it from, are we solving the right problems? Okay? So these are again things which I see that many people miss out on many of these startups.
We were talking about the passion part of things. How important is passion in design?
Passion is very important in design, but it also has to come with a level-headed way of even looking at things from a more critical standpoint.
Right.
Passion alone will not take you all the way along.
But then now if we connect passion to these startups, to your bigger companies which we are talking to, how does that kind of help you or not help you through the process?
Yeah. So in my opinion, passion is not just about holding on to your idea or your preferred way of working or your preferred way of thinking. Right? It also has to translate into, hey, I want to learn.
Curiosity.
I want curiosity. I want to learn. I want to understand where are those areas which I'm lacking or my current product or my idea is lacking. I want to improve on it. I want to persist. I want to deliver. I want to see some tangible outcome out of it. Right? So passion has to carry throughout. It's
So
not about
passion,
saying,
curiosity, flexibility, and then pushing it forward.
I would rather say you need to have passion for all these things.
Okay.
It's not just about hey,
I mean, you should be passionately, curiously into the process of things. And
it has to take you through, through and through.
the problem should be the center, not you. And the moment
Yes.
that happens, I think everything else just flows.
Correct. Yes.
That's so interesting. Okay. The importance of influence in design and the importance of unlearning in large organizations and small organizations. How is it different and how is it important? So we're talking about 2 things here. Influence itself and how do you unlearn some of it or most of it. Is it similar in bigger organizations, smaller, and how is it?
Well, I don't think it's any different whether it is big or small. You still need to have that level of influence, or you need to learn the art of in being influential. Not to say it in a manipulative way, but how are you coming out as an influential person to have an impact on the whole idea or the thought process that currently the team is having, whether it's your own team or the extended team, your partners, etc. How are you able to influence the flow of things, right? For which it's very important to sometimes unlearn. For example, if you go with the notion, I've seen this, right? Oh, this used to happen like this. Especially in large organizations, you see that, oh, we have always done it this way, or oh, okay, the previous project used to go it, we got that. But that's where you also have to deliberately stop yourself from, into that groupthink part to say that, oh, no, let's pause for a while and let's relook at these things. And there might be things which might help you to, see some of those hidden things or unknown things, which means you also should be humble enough to unlearn and come back. And this is very important, especially when we move from one company to company, right? The culture is something which you usually go with a kind of a template and say, I've seen big companies, it used to happen this way. No, every company is different, every team is different.
Right.
So
When you're coming from, like, say, bigger companies, and you're designing, say, or not, it could be any kind of company, any kind of business actually. You're designing human-centered design. That's how it should be. That's how we're taught to be. And then your company starts to scale. Do you still hold on to human-centric design, or do you let go? And I'm sure there'll be a up and down of it. How do you come back to it?
oh, you won't survive if you let go of human-centered design. Like we said earlier, right? That's the center of whole premise of having a company which delivers meaningful, relevant solutions to customers. You need to have human-centered design as the center or the centerpiece. Okay. However, when you are a smaller company, right, you might have a much closer interaction with the user in terms of the back and forth, and then iterations, than when you're looking at a much bigger organizations which are scaling with longer lead time for product development. It's again a question of how often can these changes happen. With a smaller organization, for example, you develop an app, right, and then you deploy it, and then you get feedback and say, hey, these buttons are not working, right, or this flow is not effective, broken, something like that. You might be in a position to fix it much faster than a large organization if you're looking at a very big enterprise kind of a product, right, which have long lead times and lot more dependencies in terms of effecting those.
Correct. So autonomy is kind of important.
Autonomy is important, but understanding the scale of operations is also very important.
Correct.
So you may not be able to affect the level of changes which you might be able to with a mobile app with a very large enterprise system, right? Which might take weeks or months for even a small thing to move.
Okay. Now I'm thinking how to connect this. Yeah. So we are at a point where I feel like the future is happening very quickly, right? Before, we used to imagine the future saying, next 10 years this will come up, or the phone has come. Like from landline to the phone has become smaller, and the screen has come, touch screen has come. The speed is so rapid at this point for the designs to come in and the systems to evolve. Both from a designer's perspective, how we are going to handle, and from a human perspective, as a user perspective. It could be AI, it could be tech. We are talking about the whole ecosystem, how it's moving forward. How do we handle this? Or how do we kind of move forward? How do we design? How do we make stuff? Because it's a lot to handle at this point.
Yeah, so I have a different take on this, Madhavi, because I think we ourselves are creating this sense of urgency, right? right, said that now Indians, we're always in a hurry, but never reach anywhere on time, right? I think world is also going in that way. Even with AI, right? There's so much of buzz around it. There is so much of money being thrown around. But have we even taken a pause to say, hey, what is relevant? What is meaningful? What is giving me some returns out of it? Right?
Right.
So if you look at it, a large percentage of the AI projects are failing today. And people are burning tokens and billions of dollars being spent on it. Right? But does that mean that AI is bad? No, absolutely not. It's a big technological breakthrough and it can really revolutionize things. Only if we not frantically go after trying to do something with it.
Right. I mean, last year was all about like AI tech, and I think everybody has become AI founder, like
Yeah.
some startups coming up. Bangalore just changed from startup to AI startups. All I remember my structural designer told me, can we just in the presentation mention AI somewhere? How can you just mention AI or ML just somewhere when you have no data to back it? And as you're saying, maybe, I'm not sure, you know more of this. Most startups are also doing this, like having the sticker of AI on top, and behind the system is entirely something different. Is that why most of the things failing, or also in AI itself, it's not as capable as we think?
See, it's both. One is like, choosing the areas for AI to have a real influence and, a benefit. Yeah, that becomes very important because it's still a very immature technology if you look at it. It's still learning. Even if you go to ChatGPT or a Claude or even Gemini for that matter, ask questions, right? You will still see that there is some level of hallucination or errors can happen. It's still not a perfect system. And we've assumed, or in our sense of urgency, we thought that this can solve lot many problems, right? It may solve, but give it some time before you jump into spending everything on it. So I think that is one part. Uh, the 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 second part is with respect to again having that human in the loop, expecting the systems to take over and run things autonomously, right? That's a big mistake. Systems can run, but we still need to have the humans to,
The human checkpoints.
yeah, just to say, hey, are we asking the right question or are we giving them the right tasks to execute?
Correct.
And are they doing it correctly? Or how are we catching those?
I think we are seeing AI as an organism already.
Yeah.
But it is not.
It's not.
It's a robot, or like it's a code which is running and doing your job which you gave.
Correct. And I think, what I like to note is unfair on expecting AI to do so much because it's pretty new. It's like
Baby.
still an infant. And in the current form, if you look
Right.
at artificial intelligence as a technology, it has been there for ages.
Correct.
We never used to call it this way. Now everything is being kind of packaged as AI, which is not, right? And still not given enough time for it to mature and really deliver the goods.
So one is the overestimating bit of it. What are we underestimating about it?
We're underestimating the harmful side of it also. The kind of biases it can create, the kind of disruptions it can create when it comes to the social fabric. It can hugely have a negative influence.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I'm not an expert in that. This is just more from reading and
Sure.
even from some of those areas of research which I'm doing. Incidentally, I'm doing a PhD in sustainable software systems, which can be driven by UX or kind of enabled by UX. We've seen even in large corporations, right? Sustainability is talked about, but a lot of times it is not really practiced all the way down to the level of to a developer. Like today, if you ask a developer, do you know anything about sustainability? You'll get a blank stare, right? Because it's just reported at some level. Can UX really change that? Can really UX bring it a matter of conversation to bring it down from the level of as products are being developed itself? Can we talk about sustainability? Can we give a more conscious choice to the people involved in terms of choosing something more sustainable? This is not just from an energy consumption perspective, it's also from resource utilization and a lot of other areas as well. So this is one area which I see that um, we see this, and the bias part of it. Right? So the UN sustainability goals also talks about equitable, living conditions, equal opportunities for everyone, and uh, more of equality for humankind itself. This is where again I see that if AI systems are not checked or not, be trained to look at data more from a transparent viewpoint, there could be inherent biases already built in, which can have a huge consequence as we move forward to, relying more and more on AI systems.
What would be our struggles in, like, if we were to become more optimistic and see a better future? Where will we still struggle with all of this?
Well, we're still human beings. We have our own inherent biases, and we all, run to things which are more comfortable and suitable to us. And so, between even you see that between countries and cultures, you will still have this, biases and differences. That's not going to go away. But having a machine or developing a system, this biases from a individual, it can be exponentially high if you have a system which is going to run multiple different things within which influences your environment. So this is one area where we might struggle if we don't pay enough attention to checking those AI systems for all this kind of human-centered
Right.
aspects.
Right. I mean, all of us have been reading about AI, I think, a lot. The negatives, the positives. One of it, I think me and my brother were discussing about this war situation which is going to happen because of the AI, and who's controlling it, become like centralized system which is controlling most of it. Do you think that can happen?
I don't know. I mean, I always look at things from more optimistically and positively. I mean, uh, and I strongly believe that. I mean, of course, every generation has gone through struggles and things like that, and apocalypses, etc. But we've always come back. Human beings have been created to be more resilient and overcome things. So even if disruptions do happen, I think we have the power to come back and
Okay.
rebuild things.
Lovely. I think we'll end on this note. It has to be optimistic at the end. It was great having you. I think we'll have you again once the book is out. And
Sure.
we will do a reading if you want.
Always.
And I'll definitely have all of it marked and ask you 100 more questions on it. Lovely having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah.
If you guys are coming till here, so the third thing was a huge request. Please hit subscribe and leave comments with your takeaways, insights, any comment you have. If you want us to get new guests, anything, because I love knowing what's in your mind. Extremely curious person. That's why the podcast. Please leave a comment. Thank you. Bye bye.